anything you're not wearing. If it's winter clothes, summer clothes, whatever the season is, you're moving anyway, so pack them up. Get ready to move, get them out. And then color coordinating is an extra step. I think it's worth it, personally. Again, it's given that lifestyle.
Yes, they need to smell good too. I mean, there's the point. Nothing worse than going into a closet or a bathroom. You know, a bathroom can have that mildew smell or sports equipment smell or what hockey boy smell. Wow.
Welcome to Real Estate for Real People, hosted by Shannon and Tamara Stone. As award-winning real estate professionals, the Stone sisters have spent years helping people navigate the complexities of buying, selling, and investing in real estate. From first-time homebuyers to seasoned investors, Real Estate for Real People is the go-to resource for anyone looking to make smart decisions in the world of real estate. So sit back, relax, and get ready to learn from some of the best in the business.
Hi, thank you again for joining us. This is another episode of Real Estate for Real People. Today's guest, we have Hannah Thomas from Hannah Thomas Interior Stylist here in the Okanagan. We are fortunate enough to know Hannah quite well. We get to work alongside Hannah in many opportunities, and she's fantastic at what she does. So, Hannah, thank you so much for joining us. We today are going to talk about staging your home, getting your home ready to sell, and anywhere in between those little tips and tricks and on how presenting your house the best way it can.
Perfect. I'm super excited to be here, guys.
I think people are, you know, there's a misconception. We'll jump right into it. But there's a little bit of a misconception, I think, when it comes to staging. And, you know, a lot of people, I think, don't quite understand the value of it or the importance of it. And, you know, we explain to people that we offer staging consults and the importance of it. People go, okay, so the stage is just going to say take everything off your kitchen counters and remove all photo frames and make the home as neutral and devoid of personality as possible. And that's not what you do, is it?
No, and I think there is kind of, you know, when the clients do think a stage is coming in, they think this is going to be so much work for them, and they don't realize just what an hour consult can give them. Yes, we tell you to take things off the countertops, make things look clean, but we also add things in like greenery to make it look fresh and more inviting, and, you know, add in little tips like a wine bottle on a coffee table with 2 glasses. And you kind of just, it's a stepping stone to get hopefully new clients and customers through the door. And looking at the pictures especially, you need to get those right on the money.
I always say to people, it's like merchandising your home. You go through a store and they merchandise a home. I mean, there's people that merchandise where they have the clothing when you first walk in, all of their, what am I trying to say? The clothing wax. And, you know, where you're walking right in and they're merchandising, you go to the Gap and they have what the summer trends are or what have you. Go to any sort of store. And I think it's the same thing. You're merchandising a house to go have that home go after the widest audience as possible. So it's neutralizing the house and it's looking at who we think that buyer is going to be and then really, you know, targeting to that and making sure the home appeals to that buyer. Well, and I think looking at houses now, I mean, go way back when I started in real estate, you know, we went from a paper MLS book. You had one photo of the front of the house and your realtor was the one to decide which properties you looked at. And fast forward to today and, you know, looking at real estate, I mean, they have that phrase, it's probably inappropriate on our podcast, but real estate porn, that people, it's like swipe left, swipe right. Everybody loves to be on their phone looking at homes. And it really makes a tremendous difference having those sort of key things to do what you're talking about, Shannon, like to you know, draw somebody in, to make them decide to come, you know, visit Kelowna or, you know, come and have a look at the house because it's compelling enough and stands out enough. So I agree. So let's jump to the first part of the first impression of a house, which is that curb appeal. And people talk about this all the time. There's podcasts designated to that and shows and that sort of thing. So what are some of the things, Hannah, when you're walking through a house or you see a house on the outside before you go in that you're really looking for? You know, is there certain things that you recommend or things you take away, or what does that look like?
Yeah, certainly. So I think the main thing is to have some greenery, just plain greenery, Boston ferns, 2 outside your front door, each side of your front door. Keep it plain and simple. Maybe don't use so much color. Just keep whites and greens or just green. You kind of want to take away from, you know, sometimes on a picture, if there's so many bright colors, and this is the same for the inside of the home too, it takes away from the space. So by using just calming colors, greens, whites, keeping it neutral, maybe a nice welcome mat at the front door, but everything else cleared away. No garden gnomes, no little decorations on the wall. Sometimes they're okay, but I would probably take them down. And again, for me, the main thing I look for when I do a consult on the outside of a house is to make sure, you know, the lights are working. There's no drain pipe cut in half, or you have to keep that maintenance up and just make sure that everything's good to go right from the get-go.
Well, and it's nice because you can look at a home with a critical eye separately, you know, differently even than Shannon and I can, and certainly differently than a homeowner is able to, because you get used to seeing things you stop noticing. At my house, I have a drain pipe cut in half.
You'd be surprised.
and I forgot about it. And I went, oh, you know, I'm not selling, but even just, you know, having guests come or, you know, family and friends, it would be nice to have that same sense of. Well, it's funny, Hannah, as you're saying that, I'm thinking of your house, and it is green and white. It's very calm. That's the word that you use.
Right.
And what a great way to welcome people to your home, having it present calm before they walk in the door. I think that's like that. What a great word to describe that. That's amazing.
Yeah. It's just simple and calm, and you just want to keep it classy. And I'm not saying the colors are not great when you live in the home, but when you stage it and you want people coming in and seeing this for the first time, they also would like to imagine their own things. And by doing simple, calmer colors, it's just an easy way for them to envision it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now coming into the home, you know, and again, sort of going back to the perception people have of staging is that no family photos. Is that correct? Is that the case?
It depends. You know, that's actually a great question. It depends. I've been in some family homes, and I'm like, you know, I think we should keep these pictures up. They're really beautiful. They're very simple. They're black and white. They're not intrusive. And there would maybe be one or two on the wall. And it fills the space. And sometimes because it's black and white, or because they're not so bright colored, or a big family portrait, you know, I would say you can keep those up. If you've got shelves full of pictures, absolutely take them down. I totally understand that people need to live in the house and this is your home, but at the end of the day, we're trying to appeal to as many buyers as we can. And by removing those personal items, it totally helps them envision themselves living there.
Is there anything at a front entrance, as soon as you open the door and you walk in, is there anything that you look for that people should have? Like, is there anything there that?
Well, I think it depends on the entranceway, but I think a nice console table or a bench or a seat somewhere where somebody can sit down is kind of welcoming to have that. Sometimes you can't fit it all in. I get that. But just to have something, or even a sign saying, you know, welcome to our home, or just something, picture on the wall. It needs to be a little inviting, but not too much.
Got you. Yeah, that makes sense. And colors, you know, everything seems to be white. I think both of our houses, and I'm like, yeah, we're both pretty neutral. White, because this is what we do all day, is look at houses that are for sale.
That's great. That's great for staging. I mean, the calmer the better, right? If you've got a dark burgundy house, it's going to look dark. It's going to show dark in the picture. So we would always suggest to try and lighten that up. And even if it's one wall out of 3, even if you did one wall in a lighter color, in a cream, it would totally make a difference. And what's interesting about the dark colors in homes that I've seen a lot of lately is you can even transform that into a lighter home just by adding a few accessories, like lighter curtains, some whiter cushions on the couch. You know, there's tips and tricks that we use to make that home look a little brighter.
And that still is the consensus you want, is light, bright, white.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be stark white, but by using white accessories, for example, in bathrooms, we would love to see fresh towels, white towels. You know, it gives that impression of fresh, new. Yeah. So white's the way to go.
Bathrooms are a funny place. And I find, you know, it's a very personal space. I know in showing homes, a lot of times buyers don't want to go into a bathroom. You know, you watch the body language, and they'll stand back by the door, kind of look, and yet we want to draw them in. So, if, you know.
And that's actually a really great point, because there's so many times I've gone to people's houses, and when we go through bathrooms, we explain to them, you know, all like bathroom toilet brushes away, garbage is away, count like all your personal items away, you'd be surprised how many pictures are still up on Realtor with toilet seats up and garbage is there. And it's just like, it would take 2 minutes just to just put it in your cupboard, just get rid of it, put it in your cupboard, and it makes a way nicer bathroom.
Now, when we talk about white and bright, dark kitchens versus white kitchens, do you still recommend people, or do you recommend people, I should say still, to paint those out, or is it the same thing, just accessorize with some white?
Oh, if you have dark cabinets.
Dark cabinets, right.
Well, it depends on the cabinets and the home itself. I mean, wood is actually coming real back into this 2023 vibe is kind of wood. So it depends on the kitchen. Again, just by even lightening up the backsplash and keeping the dark wood cabinetry, or by using white vases or a white KitchenAid, for example, or even changing the hardware sometimes, that is not such a big financial burden on the clients. But by doing little things, it's going to make that kitchen look better. So that's the goal.
Now, what about furniture placement? Is there any sort of tips that you sort of visualize when you're walking through your thinking, or things that you commonly say to people when you're walking through for that consult about the furniture?
It depends. Sometimes people like big furniture, I've noticed here. So especially if there's two big couches in a room and there's no walkway. So we just need to make sure that there's good kind of clearance for people to walk around. So if it was in the way of anything, we'd kind of move that out of the way, or even just by angling something or turning it a different way to give that perception of more space. That's something we look at. But I mean, to give advice on a specific furniture placement, that's tough to do without seeing the space.
But I know that that's something you've frequently done and with our clients, and it's been really helpful. I think about people going through someone else's home. When you get right down to the fundamentals of it, it's kind of uncomfortable walking through another person's home. And so I guess, the key with staging is to alleviate that discomfort and just have somebody picture themselves there. And, I find people go through a home, and Shannon, you can probably relate. They tend to go through together. Like if it's a couple, the two of them are together, and usually the realtor is leading, but they're all standing together. And I know they don't want to touch things. I remember reading something that psychologically, if a buyer bumps a piece of furniture or even a houseplant or something touches them, they're uncomfortable, and that stays with them through the tour of the home. Yeah. So sure, they go through faster that way. They're rushed. Mm-hmm. Really? So that's what you want to have. Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Just, when you've angled things, and we've had resistance, lots of sellers are like, that's my chair. That's where I sit to watch the news.
Yeah.
I understand. And it's back to what Shannon's saying. How you live in a home is different than how you merchandise it for sale.
Yeah. And sometimes that is tricky with clients. That's one of the toughest things to do as a stager. And when you're given a consult, it's like you have to win the client's trust over. You have to win their trust. And when they do trust you, the outcome is just amazing, and they can see the difference it makes. They really can. It's happened so many times just by doing a few tweaks here and there and just moving a few pieces or adding a mirror or making the space a little bit brighter with some cushions. It does make an impact. So yeah, Shannon, I think going back to that, the clients need to trust you, and that's a huge part of it.
Well, it's so funny, Hannah, and I'm going to jump in and say a quick story and a shout out to you, because personally, when we were selling our house the last time, we tend to move often, but the last time we were selling and moving, which wasn't too long ago, and you again, actually, probably, yeah. And when you came, it's funny because, Tamara had said, okay, we've got photos booked, you're good. Is Hannah going to come over? And I'm like, no, I'm through houses all the time. I know what I'm doing. This is good. And Tamara's like, okay. And then Hannah, you phoned me and you said, okay, so when are your photos? And I said, I think it was the next day or something. And you're like, Shannon, I'm coming over. I'm just going to let me have a quick walkthrough. I'm like, I'm good. You're like, I'm just going to come quickly. And you came with some stuff.
Yeah, I did.
But I remember I walked in and you just came and you're like, okay, I'm just going to tweak a few little things. You didn't do much really, but it made a huge difference. Right. I don't know if you remember, you came and you brought plants to greenery and you put them in my kitchen. And all of a sudden my kitchen just felt more elegant, classy. Yeah. It was just a couple simple things. I think you brought some white cushions. Anyway, it made a huge difference. The photos I loved. And I kept looking in at the pieces that you brought and thought, wow, like little simple things. And it just, anyway, the property showed very well because of you coming through, and it's things I wouldn't have thought of.
Right. And again, what you mentioned, the greenery aspect, you cannot have enough greenery. Like,
right.
Put greenery in your kitchen, put it in the bathrooms. You can go to Dollarama and pick up green little pots for like $4. You know, it doesn't take much. Just buy them, put them in your laundry room, one in your bathroom. It really does help, especially for pictures. So
I'm going to jump to that because it's a question people do talk about is, okay, greenery. I'm terrible with plants. I have no green thumb at all. They don't last very long in my house. So, you know, is greenery, fake plants were sort of a thing in, you know, years ago and going back where everybody's like, oh, it's a fake plant. I don't know, but that's not the case anymore. Fake plants are okay. Artificial plants are okay to have throughout your house.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at my house is full of artificial plants. You know, you can even do a little bit of, in your kitchen, you could even pick up some fresh herbs, two pots of basil either side of your stove. Looks beautiful, or by your kitchen sink. It doesn't have to be fake. If you do go for real, I would suggest that it was just plain green. You don't want anything with color again. We're just going to keep it simple, but absolutely artificial plants are the way forward, especially for staging. It's just easier.
I love the idea that you said of basil or, you know, some herbs.
Put some herbs in the kitchen. I mean, you basically want in those new buyers walking in that house and seeing themselves live there and want that lifestyle. So they can see themselves using fresh herbs in that kitchen and drinking the Pellegrino you've got out on the countertops. And I think, that's what would be a great way to stage the kitchen is with greenery, with fresh herbs.
Now I remember something, and I don't think it was you, Hannah. I think this is years ago when I first started staging. And there was a woman that we were using who always insisted on a knife block being removed from the kitchen. And she said, you have to get rid of that because somebody can have a negative association with knives, or it's violence, or it's cutting, and just get rid of it. I'm like, really? I had no idea. Is it true?
Yeah, for me, it's just in the way. I just like to see kitchen countertops clear. I mean, sometimes I will keep them on, but mainly I would take them off. Because I want to see that extra counter space. I don't think knife blocks need to be out. I'd never thought about them as someone associating with them being harmful, but I would take them out.
So if we were to say sort of the top, I think I've heard 3 things. If we were to say the top 4 or 5 things in a kitchen to stage your kitchen, which somebody can do if, you know, they're doing it themselves. One I heard was greenery, adding some greenery, whether that's artificial plants, herbs or what have you. The other 2 that you just briefly talked about was clearing your counter space and having everything clear. 3 we had talked about. What was the third one? Was you had something else, but what are a few other ones would you say of things you walk in a kitchen like these are easy things that somebody can do themselves? Which is Pellegrino,
bottles
of water,
Pellegrino or other really lovely bottles of water. Just put them very simply against the back counter. What else could you do? If there's a kitchen island, you could put a chopping board with some rosemary sprigs, some garlic, some sea salt, or you could maybe get a white platter with fresh croissants or some nice bread. And a good tip, actually, and I always tell my clients, is you don't have to keep buying the produce. You don't have to keep going out every time you've got a show in. If you buy some croissants and you put them on a platter, just pop them in the freezer, put them in a bag. Next time you get a viewing, pop them back out, put them on the platter, leave them on your island.
Yeah, that's good. I did that actually. So thank you.
You did.
We were selling it and did that. My husband would be going to eat the croissant. I'm like, no, hands off. Those are not for eating. Those are freezing. Display only. Just really only croissants.
Yeah.
So
it's like the staging towels in my house. Don't touch the towels. They like that.
Well, and you say to clear the kitchen counters, and I agree 100%. By the same token, we don't want them completely stark. Like, you don't want it to look like a vacant house, and there isn't a lot of furniture in a kitchen. You know, you've got the cabinets, you likely have an island. So you want some props, you know. And I guess
I probably keep this. Normally coffee makers, I would say coffee makers and toasters I would keep out. I mean, the knife block for me is normally an additional one in addition to having coffee makers, air fryers. You know, we try and want to put most of them away. Coffee makers are fine to keep out. You can even stage it and put a cup of coffee with a, you know, a little sign or picture frame saying coffee's up or something. You know, that's what you want. You do want to have some things out. You don't want a totally sterile kitchen. Again, by adding the herbs and the greenery, that would also help.
I remember showing a house a long time ago, 10 years ago or what have you, and they had a fruit tray on the middle of their island, and they had 5,000 ants crawling all over. There was a mushy banana, and I'll never forget it. I'm like, oh. So yeah, get rid of the fruit. Summertime's coming. I mean, you have a bunch of fruit out on your counter.
You don't want the fruit flies. Pop that in the fridge.
Yeah, so true.
Actually, you know what's a great tip for fruit flies is if you get a cork from a wine bottle and you put some corks in your fruit bowl.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Works.
Good little tip. Cork in the fruit bowl. All right.
So I kept mine in half and I popped them in the fruit bowl, and the fruit flies stay away.
Oh, interesting. Oh, funny. I would have thought they'd love it. But yeah.
So I think it absorbs some kind of something that's given off by the fruit. So
yeah, that's a good tip.
There you go.
So, another room that makes people a little bit uncomfortable in a home, and it's something that we do talk about when we walk through. Sorry, no. Don't tell the story. I'm not going to. But a walk-in closet. Oh, that's not what I was thinking about. Well, you're going to have to say yours.
Yeah.
Walk through, they're always a little hesitant to have you walk through their closet. And of course, being realtors, you're just so used to it. You walk through and you're like, oh, here's your closet, what have you. But I think too, it is a bit more of a private space. It's not somewhere your company comes and sees your closet. Rarely do you have other people coming into your closet except for your family. Mm-hmm. But it is a room that I think is important to stage somewhat. And I know some of the tips that you've said before, Hannah, is color coordinating the closet. Yeah,
I mean, there is kind of a rule when it comes to staging a house. And I tend to say to my clients, don't worry about this. But sometimes 70%, they say to get rid of 70% of the items in your closet. So new buyers, 70, yeah.
Wow.
However, I don't stick with that rule. I say anything you're not wearing, if it's winter clothes, summer clothes, whatever the season is, pack them up. You're moving anyway, so pack them up. Get ready to move. Get them out, and then color coordinating is an extra step. I think it's worth it personally, but again, it's given that lifestyle.
Yes, they need to smell good too. I mean, there's the point. Nothing worse than going into a closet or a bathroom, and a bathroom can have that milky smell or sports equipment smell or when hockey boys smell. Wow, that's
a tough one. And actually, when you go through, when I go through a client consult, it's not known for me to say, maybe we should buy a candle for this space and light it, or maybe let's put an air freshener in your closet or in the bathroom as soon as you walk in, because I've had some situations where it is overpowering, especially for people who smoke. They say, oh, I smoke outside. But that smoke smell stays on your clothes. You sit on your fabric couch, it lingers. So, it's really important that you get rid of that smell, get as much fresh air in as you can before any show-ins, and try and eliminate the smell as much.
I ran a study. We recently listed a home and did sell it, but did some research into how much does it cost? If your home smells like smoke, what's that going to cost you? And it said upwards of 25% the value of the house. Wow. I haven't heard that stat. Yeah. That was the National Association of Realtors that put that out, and just it makes sense. Mm-hmm. So that's a great one. Smell is a big one altogether, and we like to make you be the one to tell people rather than us. But
I'm good doing that. I'm fine.
You have to be really careful with, because some of them are so overpowering that you walk in and think, oh, they're covering something up. So that puts you on guard as well. And it's good actually, because I find I don't smell the same as you do. Like, you have a really strong sense of smell. Bit of a blood. It's good. Second job. She's like, hunts it through. But it's good though, because I'm aware of it because of you. Otherwise, I probably would smell some of those things. Yeah. But because you've got such a strong sense of smell, I'm aware of it. Whereas it's just like, if I'm living in a house, I might not smell it, but you are. And it's that same thing. You're trying to go after the masses. So even if you think something smells good, is it going to go after the masses? Maybe not. So neutralize that smell,
if you can. Yeah. There's some great products out there actually you can buy to neutralize the space. There's also, I don't know how far people actually want to go, but there are companies out there that oxidize. It's called oxidizing the space. So companies will come in and kind of refresh that way too. And that's worked great for a few homes that I've done. It is a little expensive, but I mean, they sold their home and they got the money they wanted. So I guess it all depends how much people are willing to pay.
Yeah,
right?
In some cases, certainly.
Yeah,
that 25%.
I agree, so especially with the carpets.
The room I was going to talk about was bedrooms.
I guess.
And again, and probably this is not age appropriate for the podcast, but
Cover your ears.
Cover your ears, anybody who's young. But no, but we've gone in bedrooms and had sex toys out on the table, or the goodie bag, like the velvet bag is on the nightstand. I'm like,
no,
you gotta get rid of that.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not going to go there.
Yeah.
We have other stories.
Yeah. So, like, often you recommend, and again, it's neutralizing and depersonalizing, but a white bedspread.
Always white. Yeah. As much white as you could possibly put in there. And you know what? The big thing for me is that the Kleenexes on the bedside tables. You know what, guys? Get rid of the Kleenex, please.
Yeah.
Just pop it in the drawer.
It's true.
And it's in everybody's bedroom every time. I'm going to say not every time, but 90% of the time you walk into a master primary bedroom, there's Kleenexes on the bedside tables. So let's just pop those in a drawer.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it is.
But neutral. A white bedspread, yes.
Yeah, white bedspread, and I think it's walking through a house with the keen eye, pretending it's not your home, which is hard to do, as referenced when I went through and you can tweak a few things. But walking through with the keen eye, pretending it's not your home. What do you see? Someone had said once, and this might sound crazy, but I think they had said something like going through on your hands and knees or something and look at the ground to see, okay, is there anything missing? Is there anything down there that's going to be a distraction that's going to hit somebody that's going to, anyway. But I think there's lots of little things like that, little tips. Yeah.
What's really interesting is the biggest surprise to most people when I go in and we say, especially in bathrooms, people put mats down, the bath mat, the toilet mat. We want those up, and most rugs on any floor, be it an entrance rug, a runner in the kitchen, a runner in the hallway, unless it's a coffee table, under a coffee table in a living room, take that rug up, because especially with pictures, it makes the space look way smaller, choppy. I know Hayley likes to use the word choppy. So it doesn't look streamlined, and especially in the pictures, if there are rugs in place and there are 3 different rugs, it does not look good in pictures, and for show-ins too. So just take them up, wrap them up, you move in, you may as well pack them away, ready to go. But that is a big thing, especially in bathrooms, is the amount of mats that are down. And I always say to people, just take them up. Well, clients go out specifically to buy really beautiful mats for their bathroom because they want it to look nice. And I feel badly saying, we've got to take those up, but it does look better when they're taken up, especially with most bathroom floors, a nice tile. So you want to show that off,
And it's a smaller space, so it does chop that room.
Yeah. Especially the pictures. Yeah.
Another thing too, I know that you talked lots about when you go through properties, is ensuring that the window spaces are open, because we want to really enjoy the Okanagan lifestyle here, especially when we're trying to capture those views or see the greenery outside or what have you. So if furniture's backed up against the window, it's clearing that space.
That's an interesting point, Shannon. And actually not even just the window. You'd be surprised how many people put furniture right against the wall. You know what? We don't want that, because it doesn't work well. You want it to be closer. You want it to look cozier. If it's far against the wall, it just doesn't look spatially correct. And so we want to bring the couches in together to give more of a cozy feel to the home.
Well, that's a change you made at our place, Hannah, when Hannah came over recently, and with an area rug, a very neutral, which I love what we got, and pulled the chairs away from the window and kind of faced them. They're swivel chairs, so we'd always face them outside, and you had them, rather than face into the room or out the window, you had them face each other, and I keep them like that all the time. I love it.
Yeah, it's just more of a conversational piece, and yeah, it is, and it's just makes people want to sit down and have family over and kind of have good conversations and stuff. So if they're too far away and they're too far apart from each other, especially if they're against the window too, like you said, Shannon, to let all that light in, I would definitely bring them closer together.
So last thing, or one of the last things anyway, outside, is it worth, we're in the summertime, presumably people have some outdoor furniture, but maybe not. Is it worth having some pieces? Do you take away a ton? Do you have none? All? What's your sense on that? Say the backyard, the back patio.
I think you definitely need a seating area, especially if it's here in the Okanagan. This is the lifestyle, right? We're all wanting to be outside. Again, if you could keep it neutral. So we try and stay away from the bright reds if possible, or the bright yellows, or even if you mixed all those colors. I go to a lot of people's houses, and it's great when you're living in that house. That's your style, that's your personality. You want that color. But for staging and for selling your home, the more neutral it could be, the better. So the browns, the grays, the creams, and just a little pop of color, but not too much of a cushion. But yeah, stage it. Make that place look like, I want to live here. I want to sit here and enjoy this backyard and drink some wine, Okanagan wine, Put a bottle of wine out there with 2 glasses on a nice table. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, Hannah, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you guys so much.
I don't have anything else. That was great. I mean, I've been writing notes down here.
Yes.
Just some great tips and some great things. Obviously this is geared towards people who are selling, and if you're going to list with Stone Sisters, then we provide a consult. If perhaps you're out of the Okanagan or you're going to use a different realtor, maybe these tips will help you.
Yeah.
Just neutralize, help your home appeal to as many people as possible. Help it really photograph the best way possible. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, Hannah, and I think the biggest thing for clients is just really trust the process, trust the realtors, trust the stager coming in. If you trust that process, it'll make things so much easier. And I'm sure the place will get sold quicker because you guys have seen it for yourselves. It does help the home sell. Yeah.
Oh, for sure, Ma. It does. Absolutely. So how can people find you is my one question. And then as well, I just wanted to touch on that you do the staging, but you can also do this remotely for people. So you can FaceTime or Zoom people through their houses. So if we have listeners, which we do have some listeners that are back out east Ontario that are going to be selling their houses and moving to the sunny Okanagan. But you could do a consult for those people and walk them through virtually.
Yeah, I actually do quite a few online consults nationwide. I'm doing one in the UK as well right now. It's pretty simple. It's straightforward. I write all the notes down for you as we walk through, and then I send you all the notes. So it would be like, remove the mat here, put a mirror in the entranceway, kind of things like that. Again, clean the kitchen counters. I write all the notes as we go along, and then I'll send them to the client.
Wow, I love that. And what's great about that too, that I think, is because that sets the stage for the photos. You're really looking at it from a lens perspective, which I think is going to help that house show even better online in that regard. So how can people find you? If people are wanting to hire you for their services or just learn a little bit more about you, where are you located? On Instagram, I know.
So I'm on Instagram at Hannah Thomas _ stylist. I'm also on Hannah Thomas interiorstylist.com. That's a new website that's actually just getting loaded up this week.
Great.
And they can contact me on Instagram. Is probably the best way to reach me, actually.
Excellent. Beautiful. Hey, sounds great. Hannah, thank you so much for joining.
Hey, thank you guys.
I've got tons of ideas.
Good. Perfect.